Irene, what a joy to have you this afternoon as we continue our Trauma-Free World interview series. We are interviewing folks across the country who have impacted the world of foster care and adoption. I could not think of a better person than the Executive Director of the National Foster Parent Association. Welcome, Irene.
Thank you. My honor.
It is such a joy, as I said, to have you here. And we acquainted many years ago. We kind of lost connections and have reacquainted. So would you just kind of give us a little history of your journey as a foster parent, adoptive parent, as we continue this Trauma-Free World interview series?
Sure. Well, our experience started a long time ago because my husband and I married in 1966, so it'll be 54 years in July that we've been married. And we learned 3 or 4 years into that marriage that we weren't going to have kids the way that most people do. And so we started looking at the various aspects of building a family. And certainly adoption became the option. So we adopted an infant through from a birth mom. And when she was 3, we decided that we wanted to be foster parents. And so that's how we went and our journey started. We fostered for 27 years after that, and had 127 kids join our family during that period of time.
Oh my.
Through foster care. We wound up adopting 4 children total. I have to tell you that for somebody who couldn't have kids and wondered if they'd ever, have grandchildren, we have 20 grandchildren now.
20, awesome.
20 grandchildren, and we have 3 great-grandchildren. Life couldn't have been any better planned. God had his hand in every single thing that happened for us, for sure. The road wasn't easy. The road was terribly difficult. But one of the things we learned that I think is so important to talk about a little bit is, because it's Foster Care Month, is that we learned very early on that these children always and forever would need to know their family, regardless of what the permanency plan was at the end of the journey, right? Whether it was reunification, which many of our children were able to go back home because we worked really, really closely with their parent to help make that happen. And for those that didn't, there was a way paved that they could have a relationship later on in life. And certainly for the children that we adopted, that was important to them. It's important to them now. My oldest daughter is 29 years old.
How old is she? I'm sorry, how old is your daughter?
7 and 49.
Oh, okay.
And then I got boys 47, 43. And our youngest daughter, Melissa, is 36. Melissa lives home with us yet because she's unable to be totally independent due to having Down syndrome.
Okay.
Pure joy, and brings happiness every day to everybody who meets her. But, over those years, I learned very quickly that every child needed people to be their champion, to fight for them. And oftentimes that meant fighting for their families. In traumatic, trauma-filled families, almost always, right?
Sure.
Had provided and caused a lot of trauma to their children.
Irene, you were doing that at a time that wasn't a popular thing. I can remember even in the 80s, the last thing you would think of was any kind of birth family contact. But you learned that very early.
We fought the system.
I'm not surprised with your little personality. I'm not surprised.
Every day, because of how strongly we felt about the relationship, regardless of where it was going to go and end, that it was a forever relationship.
Sure.
It is. Those people didn't just disappear.
Right. And they're part of their genetics. Well, let me ask you, my friend, how did you move to leadership? Where you started as foster and adoptive parents, and now you're executive director of a national organization. How did you get there?
Well, we started I guess I've been like sort of an advocate my whole life and didn't really know it. Needed the cause, right? And so early in our fostering career, we decided that, man, this is way too hard to do by ourselves. And we needed to be talking to other foster parents and learning from the wise ones who had been fostering a while and got wiser with every child that joined their family, right? And so we asked, how does that work? And we're told, well, y'all really ought to start a foster parent association in your county. So we did. And wound up just being a wonderful, wonderful organization. And, we had other counties join us then, and we had a network of support built by people wiser than us and with new people who needed all of us to surround them, to help them figure it out. And we grew a group of foster parents that did a lot of work with the children's families, and not just their parents, but their extended families, their grandmas, grandpas, aunts, uncles, whatever it took, because all of those people cared about those kids in some way. So what we would do is, we sort of pushed that. So we were kind of an organization that was on the outside, oftentimes not agreeing with CPS and some of what they wanted, sometimes questioning the judges when they would
pushing it,
say, yes, need to see their parents once a month. I mean, come on, and so it was us in court saying, no, I don't think so, and not the caseworkers, right? And not even the kids ad litems, attorney ad litems or anything. It was false parents. But that just grew, and that then grew into me becoming part of our Texas Foster Family Association. And I started having different offices in there, and then I wound up being president of that organization for 7 years at one time, and took a break, and then 4 years at another time. And but being part of the state association back in the late 70s, probably 1978, then I became acquainted with the National Foster Parent Association. So I've been a member ever since, and got to meet great people like you, who are so good at understanding and educating caregivers and researching and figuring out what we need to change and how we need to change it. And so, that just kind of grew. And then after serving as an officer on the National Association for quite various types, I got elected president, and I served as the president for 4 years. And at that point, the board of directors asked if I would change position, go into the executive director position, which is a paid position. So it was like,
oh, that's nice. Well, you're not going to turn that down. Awesome.
Well, boy, is it a lot of work, I got to tell you.
Yeah, there's Well, let me ask you, since this is Foster Care Month, we just want to come behind our foster parents who serve sacrificially. Would there be maybe 2 or 3 words of encouragement that you could say to foster parents? You may be, someone listening to this may be thinking, I don't think I can do this one more day. No one understands. So could you speak some words?
Oh my God, I was there so many times. Many times. So yeah, a few things. One, find yourself some other foster parents that you can relate to, who, maybe take the age range of children who you serve. Maybe you specialize in kids with certain needs, find those people if you can. I like quotes. Okay, so I have this collection of quotes, and they guide me, and they have for most of my life. And I figured you'd ask something about, because motivation is always a really big thing. Everybody has to know why they want to be a foster parent, right, when they're going through the process of a home study and all of it. But there's a couple of things. Something that Vera Fahlberg said a long time ago that hit me when I was, again, much younger, that every child deserves an irrational advocate.
Say that again.
Every child deserves an irrational advocate.
Irrational advocate. I've never heard that.
And that's what I was having to be. It seemed like, because I felt like I was like challenging the system so often. And they get mad at me, you know.
Sure. They don't like,
you know,
no, they wouldn't like you. No.
Kids are going to do that, or
Irene's back.
you know, you're causing trouble, right?
Yes.
You're complaining about something, but you know, I kept saying, no, there are no cookie cutter cases in child protection. You can't treat them like that, and that's what we're seeing a lot of, right? So anyway, so every child deserves an irrational advocate.
Yeah, I love that statement.
Yeah, and a couple of years ago, I met a very delightful, awesome woman. Her name is Rhonda Shortino. She's in foster care. She emancipated herself at 16. She is an amazing woman. She's an author. She does a lot of training. She's a huge support for caregivers and youth who in foster care and are in foster care. But one of the things that she said to me when we first started talking with each other, again, hit home with me, because she said, you know, when I was trying to say, what do foster parents do? They changed my life, literally changed one foster father. That's
changed her life.
Totally changed her life. And she said, I was trying to figure out, how do I say that? And what she came up with is that foster parents practice, here, let me see, let me find it. I don't want to say it wrong. Foster parents practice radical hospitality.
Radical hospitality. Talk a little bit about that.
So radical hospitality is you're welcoming somebody else's child or children into your family, right? You are welcoming them into your environment, into your way of life, often knowing very little about their background, and often not having gotten accurate or full information about the child or children for various reasons. Maybe the investigators couldn't get it because they were still parents at the time or whatever. But sometimes because the needs were so great, they were afraid to tell you the truth because they're afraid you'd say no.
Sure.
It goes the gambit, right?
Right.
But you did it anyway. You said yes.
Anyway. You said, I'll take you. Yes.
You said, we'll do this anyway. We're going to figure this out for this kid or for these children. And we're going to look at each one of them as an individual person, just like we do everybody else in our family. And we're going to try to treat them in the ways that we think will be best for them, right? And to bring them to some understanding of the trauma that they've experienced in the past, and help them learn some ways to deal with those experiences over time, and hopefully that can lead to well-being for their future.
Right.
So, yeah, radical hospitality.
I love that radical hospitality concept.
Those are my two
biggies. Yes. Well, you know, Irene, you've been doing this a long time, and you have sacrificially given and shared, and I got to meet your daughter briefly the last time we talked. But just as we close this up, I would like to check with you about some statistics. How many foster parents do we have in this country?
There's no really good, accurate count because the government's not actually tracking that.
Okay.
Some states can't even tell you how many they have in their state. They tell you by county, but they don't even collect it by state. So with the number that's still being discussed at the Children's Bureau, through the Child Welfare Information Gateway, when you go in there to find information, is about 120,000 families across this whole country to serve around 440,000 children a year.
That's amazing.
It's amazing. And now we have kinship families included, some in those numbers. Again, kinship care looks so different from state to state and in county-run systems, even county to county. In some states, they get licensed or verified as foster families. In other states, they get nothing.
Nothing, and no recognition or support.
Nothing. No support, services. So it's kind of hard to know how many of that 120,000 includes kinship caregivers, but we know there are a lot of kinship families there that are formally serving their family members, and many, many, many more informally.
Yes.
So
Awesome.
you have those kinship caregivers who have stepped in when they've seen the need prior to anybody ever making a CPS referral, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because grandma needed to keep the safe while whatever needed to happen with the parents. And then you have that's more formalized when, at 10 o'clock at night, grandma's phone rings and it's an investigator saying, we're going to have to, separate your grandchild from your daughter. And she recommended, that maybe you could take the child. So that's a different step. It's a different reason grandma has it. It's still all kinship care, right? So then you have the more formalized where states have said, we recognize that these families need a daily stipend or a monthly stipend to help meet the
They
needs.
sure do. Yes.
Food, clothing of these kids, and they need some services, just like foster families need services in order to stay sane, right?
Sure.
Counseling if needed for the whole family. I mean, all of those kinds of things are really important because what we want to do is maintain the stability for these children, regardless of where they're at,
For sure.
while the parents are working on their service plan.
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of birth grandparents or kinship grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, we didn't really have a choice. It's either we take these children or they end up in foster care. And I can't let that happen. So their life changes forever. Listen, as we conclude our time together, and I've so loved reconnecting with you, I want to thank you for recommending our Trauma Competent Caregiving online training,
Yes.
our Trauma-Free World, and any comments about that you would like to share?
I've looked at everything on your website and I've studied it some. It just looks like it's really good training. And whether it's the 3 hours or the whole 3 days, impactful. It appears to be really impactful. And there is never enough of information available to caregivers to get them to the point where they can handle any situation from any child who comes into their family.
Sure.
We are creatures of learning. All of us are.
Mm-hmm.
We are better when we're learning.
We are better.
And the foster families that I know are in constant learning mode, maybe because they have to have a number of hours of training.
They got to do it.
They got to do it.
They want to look, but they do want to learn.
What they need is to make sure that the content of what they're getting is of value to them.
Yes.
That it's not just, you need universal precautions every year because it's a rule.
Right.
And they sleep through the class because they've had it for 10 years already, right?
Right.
That kind of thing. It has to have meaning. It has to be relevant to their life experiences and those children that they're working with and their families. And how does that all blend together? So I was so excited when I saw the topics and some of the information about it. So yes, I wholeheartedly, believe that that's a huge compliment to all of the other training that's available through agencies, through the National Foster Parent Association, on our NFPA Training Institute website. There's others as well, Foster Parent College. There's just a lot out there where people can go and get content. And a variety, I think, serves all caregivers very well.
Thank you very much for your time, my dear friend.
I have one parting thing, if you don't mind.
Yes, ma'am, of course.
When people are considering to be foster parents.
Mhm.
They talk about, I would have loved them too much and
Mhm.
couldn't give them up, and it would hurt me
Sure.
too, right? So, but the unknown person who made this quote, but it's, I am not afraid to grieve. I am afraid of what would happen to these children if no one took the risk to love them.
Oh.
And I think it's really, really important. That's the number one for me. Yeah, it was risky. It was risky every day, but it was worth it.
Yes.
Every single day.
And you changed lives literally for generations with how many grandchildren? 22? 20 something. Oh my
grandchildren
God.
and 3 great-grandchildren.
And all the foster kids that are staying connected.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Listen, bless you.
They all have kids now. So
Yeah.
there you go.
It'd be interesting if you could have a reunion of all the kids that are, oh my gosh. Of course, not right now, but anyway. So, well, bless you, my friend, and thank you so very much.
You're so welcome. Anytime.